Hello everyone, Purge here and welcome to my Monsters and Memories tutorial series for non-EverQuest players. In this installation, we'll run through some of the important terms and practices in MNM. This will help you to understand some of the terms I've used in the introduction video, as well as some terms I'll use in later videos. This video will not be going over every single term. Later I'll show you the new player guide with the terms listed out, and we'll go through a few of them while showcasing it. This video is meant as an introduction, as well as a way to compare the terms to what some may be more familiar with if you've not played EQ before. If, like me, you come from a WoW background, some of these terms are going to be confusing, so let me help you figure it out and let's jump right in. Camping in campfires. First up, we have the practice most of us will do the most of: camping. This one should be fairly easy to understand, but camping is parking your booty in one area and claiming, quote-unquote, an area for yourself. Etiquette dictates how camps work, and it is described in the game's Play Nice policy that you shouldn't intentionally steal mobs from others' camps, so don't do that. Camping is the primary avenue to leveling up. Most of the time, players will build a campfire and sit around it while pulling mobs to the fire. Campfires provide an XP bonus, as long as it isn't raining, since you can't rest in the rain, for up to 20 minutes. This practice will feel a bit strange to my WoW and Final Fantasy XIV veterans, where we're used to just pressing forward at all times, barely stopping to cast a spell. When entering an area, particularly in dungeons, you can ask in /OOC chat, that is, out of character chat, for a camp check, or CC as some people will sometimes call it, much to my confusion. And a lot of times people will tell you where they're camped at. If you are looking for a specific spot and it's taken, maybe try something new, or perhaps open dialogue with the ones camping it. Who knows, maybe you can work something out. In general, camping is the primary method of grinding, which is the primary method of leveling, but as always there are exceptions. Some people, my primary leveling group being one of them, enjoy roaming instead, running from place to place to clear a camp and then move to another area and clear that one next. There's nothing inherently wrong with this method, though you do lose the XP bonus after 20 minutes, unless you want to burn 8 more wood and place a new fire every 20 minutes or so. The primary benefit of roaming is there is more activity than just sitting in one place and casting a spell every couple of minutes. Inactivity, that is to say potential boredom, is a real risk of camping, which is why a lot of the time we tend to get very chatty and sometimes downright goofy while camping. It's all about what you make of your time in Aethero. PH, named, repop, etc. Here I want to briefly go through some of the more common terms you'll run into while grouping in a dungeon. PH, or placeholder, is a term to represent a mob spawn that isn't what you're after, which is typically a named mob. Named mobs are what we in WoW would call bosses or rare spawns. Enemies that don't have a generic name like a skeletal marksman, but instead have a proper name like Swordmaster Willybrook. Okay, that may just be a silly name that I made up, not a proper name, but you get my point, I hope. One important thing I want to say about named mobs: in MNM, most, if not all of them, are not guaranteed to spawn. If you want a named mob, and you have a general idea of where that mob spawns, and you don't see it there, you're going to have to camp the area, clear it for a while, and hope the RNG goddess shines upon you to spawn the named mob. It isn't a guarantee, and neither are the drops. While collecting footage for this series in the November playtest, I spent a total of about 5 hours camping Gerhard Graves' room in Wormsbane and never saw him spawn once. It was so bad that I actually asked in the Discord if anyone had seen him spawn at all in the entire test, as I was concerned he was bugged out somehow. I received notice he was indeed spawning normally, and my luck just sucked. That's par for the course for me, to be honest. Another common term you'll see is repop. This is the exact same thing as respawn, which hopefully you'll be familiar with. In general, these terms are going to be integral to understanding what's happening in groups, what the goal of the group is, where you're going to be at, etc., etc. So please familiarize yourself with them at the very least. That being said, don't feel absolutely forced to use these terms. Most of the people playing MNM have played WoW at some point in time. They're aware of our other terms. They're simply used to EQ terms, which is from where most of these are derived. Sometimes there will be confusion if you don't use EQ terms, but most of the time people will get the gist, and if they don't, you can just explain it to them. The new player guide. So, I've already explained about camping and general group terminology, but realistically, this is just scraping the surface. If you go to the Monsters and Memories website, specifically monstersandmemories.com/new player guide, you'll find the new player guide. This can be reached in-game by clicking on the book icon that's enabled by default on your screen, as well as just going directly to the link as I did here. This guide has a ton of useful information, such as how to get the game running, general explanations on major mechanics, such as interaction with NPCs, and how to or memorize spells, as well as a deeper look into game mechanics that new players will want to read through. First of all, I highly recommend anyone watching this video, if you're not an EverQuest veteran, to thoroughly read through this guide. It will answer a lot of questions that new players have. Players in-game will often refer you to the new player guide if you ask several silly questions, so it's better to just read through it first. Specifically for the purposes of this video, though, at the very bottom of the guide, there's a list of common terms. Here, you'll see terms that I've already talked about, such as camp, as well as dozens more. I suggest familiarizing yourself with these at the very least, but if you forget or are confused, feel free to ask for clarification, and most people will be happy to explain. Some other very common terms you'll run into include CR, or corpse run, indicating that someone is trying to retrieve their corpse, INC, for incoming, usually used in macros by pullers, MES, which is short for mesmerize, which is a crowd control mechanic, LD, or link dead, which you'll sometimes see next to someone's name, which indicates they disconnected from the game. This list has been imperative for me to learn just what the hell people are saying in chat. Think of it like learning a new language. There's going to be terminology you're not familiar with. This is a dialect of gaming language that'll be second nature for EQ players, but for WoW players like me, a lot of this might as well have been Chinese. So try and learn these terms at the very least, even if you don't plan to use them. It'll make communication much smoother overall. The link to the guide will be in the description below. Trains. Before I leave you, I want to touch upon one thing I mentioned in the intro video, and that is trains. Trains are probably the single most dangerous event in Monsters and Memories. Trains are when one or more, usually a lot, hostile mobs are following, like a train, players to a zone line. This happens so frequently in the Wormsbane dungeon in Night Harbor that it has the nickname of Trainsbane. Trains are an ever-present threat in MNM, even outside of dungeons. However, in dungeons where the monsters are more densely packed and sometimes the terrain is more constrained, trains are exceedingly dangerous. It is ultimately the player's responsibility to keep an eye out for trains at all times, particularly in dungeons. However, etiquette, for which I'll make a separate video, dictates two things. Number one, you /shout that a train is imminent. This will typically get players' attention. Feel free to spam this a few times or even make a macro that shouts, "Train to zone line," and place it on the hotbar for easy access. And number two, you don't do it over and over again if you can help it. It's also against the rules to train intentionally, so do not do that. If you wind up creating a train while trying to return to your corpse or something, ask for help instead of trying another attempt. Most people would rather spend a few minutes helping you out than get wiped out by 25 skeletons steamrolling through their merry camp. It's bad form to create trains over and over, and if you do it a lot, you'll get a reputation and things may get difficult for you on the server, so be cautious, people. Some common places you'll find trains are in dungeons such as Wormsbane, Telekir, and other dungeons, and Sungreet's Strand, particularly Cinder Sentinels, which are high-level beetle mobs most people don't expect to be hostile until they one-shot the unexpected newbie explorer and their friends scatter like cockroaches for the zone line. Been there, done that. Remember, trains are a feature. If you die to a train, it may be your fault for not being spatially aware. And that's a wrap. I hope you found this video useful. If you feel I should have touched on something else, let me know in the comments below. If this helps even one person survive a train because they were paying attention from heeding my warning, I will consider this video a raving success. However, the algorithms must be pleased, so I ask you to please like and follow on Rumble, and like and subscribe on YouTube. Doing so is a free way for you to help me out, so please consider doing so. The next video in the series will be some tips and tricks for starting an MNM from a non-EQ veteran's perspective. So look forward to it. I'll see you then.